What's up guys, Christiana here for Card Player TV, back for another edition of Strategy. Today we're going to talk about small blind to big blind situations. We caught up with Negreanu and Steve Billirakis, and the first thing we asked them was how they proceed when they're in the small blind and it folds around to them. Here's what they had to say.
Well, I mentioned this on Poker After Dark recently. My strategy is almost always to limp in, okay? The only times that I would veer from that is if I have a very weak player on my left, or he's very short, or I'm very short. Otherwise, if it's still deep and we're just playing poker, I'm usually going to limp in because small blind is not a position of power. The big blind is. And most good players are going to defend in the big blind with anything, you know? So then you're going to have to play a bigger pot out of position, and I don't want to do that. You know, I may limp in if the guy raises re-raise with some of my hands, you know, to keep them off balance. Otherwise, if you limp all the time, they raise you and you just fold or call, they have power. But if you limp re-raise sometimes, it throws them off balance. You have to make sure you balance your range when you're doing that. I'm using the word range a lot lately. But I much prefer the idea of limping and keeping pots small out of position. When I'm in the small blind, I'm looking to minimize my loss. In the big blind, I'm looking to maximize my profit.
I usually, I've started to limp a lot more in a tournament, but if the player is just really tight and has a lot of respect for me, then I'll just raise it and hopefully he'll just fold. And if he calls, then I'm comfortable enough playing out of position against most players. But again, if it's a good player that I have a lot of respect for, I'll usually just, if I limp, he'll raise. If I raise, he'll call or re-raise. So I'll just give it to him. So it just really just depends on who it is.
I asked Daniel if players made the mistake of defending their blinds too often.
You know, not as much as it used to be. Like, these tournaments, it's just more like poker. In the old days, like shorter stacked events where, you know, you just shove. A lot of people would do that and just overplay hands just because, you know, don't mess with me, I'm freaking big blind. But no, I don't think that's a major flaw. I think actually it goes the other way. I think people don't defend their big blind quite often enough.
I asked Steve Billirakis the same question, but he disagrees and says that many players do defend their blinds too often.
Yeah, I defend less than most players, but yeah, I'll call with any hand that can flop well. Like I put him on a range of hands. Like say I think he's got a good hand this hand. When you're blind versus blind, a good hand would be like Queen 10. So I won't call with hands like 10-8 because like if I don't want to flop a hand that I'm going to be outkicked, I'll call with like 6-5 or. You know, something that is just completely 2 cards away from the 2 cards that I think he hit. Most players, people who donate their chips, definitely take raising their big blind personal, which is, you should never take anything personal in a poker game.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Strategy. I'm Christiana for Card Player TV.